The royal garden of was the most beautiful place in the entire galaxy. Flowers of every color grew there. Some glowed in the dark. Some sang soft melodies when the wind touched them. And in the middle of this garden, a human man worked quietly with his hands in the soil. His name was. He was tall for a human, but not very tall compared to the people. His skin was light brown from working under the twin suns. His hair was black and always a little messy. He wore simple clothes, a loose shirt, old pants, and boots covered in dirt. He looked like a servant, not like the husband of a queen. But that is exactly what he was. Had married Queen 3 years ago. It was a marriage that shocked the entire empire. Was the most powerful ruler in 5-star systems. She was beautiful in the way her people were beautiful, tall, with silver skin that shimmered like moonlight and eyes that glowed soft purple. Her voice could command armies. Her mind could solve problems that confused the greatest scholars. And she had chosen to marry a human botanist. The court still talked about it. They whispered in the halls of the palace. They laughed behind their hands at royal dinners. They called many names when they thought no one was listening. Weak, soft, pathetic, a pet that the queen kept for amusement. Heard all of it. He pretended not to, but he did. His hearing was better than they knew. Humans had many abilities that other species did not understand, but never corrected them. He never defended himself. He simply smiled his gentle smile and returned to his garden. On this particular morning, the garden was peaceful, was planting a new type of flower from Earth. It was called a rose. He had brought seeds from his home planet many years ago, and now they were finally ready to bloom. He worked carefully, his hands moving with patience and skill. "You missed breakfast again." The voice was soft but firm. Looked up and saw standing at the edge of the garden. She was wearing her formal robes, deep blue with golden symbols that represented her royal bloodline. Her silver hair was tied up in a complex style. She had obviously just finished a meeting with her council. "I am sorry," said. He stood up and brushed the dirt from his knees. "I wanted to finish planting before the second sun rose. The roses do not like too much heat." Walked toward him. Her guards stayed at the garden entrance, as she had ordered them to do. This garden was the one place where she could be alone with her husband. "The council asked about you," she said. "Did they?" His voice was calm. "What did they want to know?" "General asked why you do not attend military briefings." Stood beside him now, looking down at the small rose plants. "He thinks it is strange that my husband shows no interest in the defense of our empire." Was quiet for a moment, then he smiled. "What would I know about military matters? I am just a gardener." Studied his face. After 3 years of marriage, she still could not always read his expressions. Humans were different from her people. They hid their emotions in ways that confused her, but she loved him anyway. She loved his kindness. She loved his patience. She loved the way he looked at her like she was the most precious thing in the universe. "Does not trust you," she said honestly. "I know. He thinks you are hiding something." Laughed softly. It was a warm sound like water flowing over stones. "Thinks everyone is hiding something. That is why he is a good general. But I promise you, my love, I have nothing to hide. I am exactly what I appear to be, a man who loves plants and loves his wife." Wanted to believe him. She did believe him mostly. But sometimes, late at night, she would wake up and find him standing at the window, staring at the stars. His eyes would be different in those moments. Hard, cold, like he was looking at something far away that she could not see. She never asked him about it. She was afraid of what he might say. "Come," she said, taking his hand. "Walk with me. The council can wait." They walked through the garden together, named each flower as they passed. He told her stories about where they came from, some from distant planets and some from Earth. He spoke about Earth often. It was a small planet, he said, blue and green, full of life, full of violence too. Humans had nearly destroyed their own world many times. But they survived, said, That is impressive. Humans are good at surviving, agreed. There was something in his voice that she could not identify, pride, sadness, she was not sure. They reached a bench near the center of the garden and sat down. The twin suns were rising now, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. It was beautiful, peaceful, leaned her head against his shoulder. "I am glad I married you," she said quietly. Kissed the top of her head, "and I am glad I found you." At the edge of the garden a servant appeared. He looked nervous. He bowed low before speaking. "Your Majesty, forgive the interruption. General requests your presence immediately. He says it is urgent." Frowned, never used the word urgent unless something was truly wrong. She stood up, her robes flowing around her. "What has happened?" she demanded. The servant swallowed hard. "There are ships, Your Majesty, many ships. They appeared at the edge of our system 1 hour ago. General believes they are from the Empire." The felt her blood turn cold. They were conquerors. They had destroyed dozens of civilizations across the galaxy. They took everything, resources, technology, slaves. No one had ever defeated them in open war. She looked at, he was still sitting on the bench, his face calm. Too calm, perhaps. "Stay here," she told him. "Stay in the garden where it is safe." Nodded slowly, "As you wish, my queen." Hurried away with the servant. She did not look back. If she had, she might have seen something strange. She might have seen the way his gentle expression faded the moment she turned away. She might have seen his jaw tighten, his eyes narrow, his hands close into fists. She might have seen a soldier waking up from a very long sleep. But she did not look back, and so she saw nothing. Sat alone in the garden, surrounded by flowers that sang in the wind. He looked up at the sky, where somewhere beyond the clouds, enemy ships were gathering. So he whispered to himself, "It begins." He closed his eyes and remembered things he had tried very hard to forget. Fire, screaming, the weight of a rifle in his hands, the faces of men he had killed, the faces of friends he had lost. He remembered Earth. He remembered war. He remembered why he had run away to the other side of the galaxy to plant flowers and live in peace. But peace, it seemed, had not followed him. Opened his eyes, they were different now, harder, colder. The quiet gardener was still there, somewhere deep inside, but something else was waking up, something that had been sleeping for a very long time. And they had no idea what was coming. The war room of the palace was a place of chaos. Holographic screens floated in the air, showing maps and numbers and enemy ship positions. Officers ran back and forth, shouting orders. Alarms rang in the distance. The whole building shook as defensive shields absorbed enemy fire. Queen stood at the center of it all. Her silver face was pale with worry, but her voice remained strong. She was a queen, and queens did not show fear. "How many ships?" she asked. General pulled up a display. His face was grim. He was an old warrior, covered in scars from battles fought long ago. He had served his mother and her grandmother before that. He had never lost a war. Until now, perhaps. "Over 300 capital ships," he said. "Thousands of smaller fighters. It is the largest fleet we have ever seen." Felt sick. Her entire military had only 80 ships. They were good ships, well-built and well-armed. But 80 against 300 was not a battle. It was a slaughter. "What do they want?" she asked, even though she already knew the answer. "Everything." His voice was bitter. "They sent a message 1 hour ago. They demand complete surrender. All our resources, all our technology, all our people as slaves. If we refuse, they will destroy every city on every planet we control." The room went silent. Everyone looked at the queen, waiting, hopping, praying that she would have an answer. Did not have an answer. For the first time in her life, she did not know what to do. "We will fight," she said finally. "We will not surrender. If we must die, we will die with honor." The officers nodded. Some of them looked relieved, others looked afraid, but they were loyal. They would follow their queen into death if she commanded it. The battle began 1 hour later. Ships launched from every base in the system. They flew toward the enemy in tight formations, their weapons ready. They were brave. They were skilled. They fought like heroes. And they died like flies. The ships were monsters, massive black vessels covered in weapons. They did not fight with honor. They fought with overwhelming force. For every ship that fell, 10 ships were destroyed. The sky burned with fire and metal. Watched it all from the war room. Each time a ship exploded, she felt it in her heart. Those were her people, her soldiers, her friends, dying because she had ordered them to fight. "Your Majesty," a young officer approached her, his face wet with tears. "The outer defense line has fallen. General Minyu is dead. His ship was destroyed 10 minutes ago." Minyu, he had been at her wedding. He had given a gift, a small plant from his home province. He had welcomed the human when so many others had mocked him. Now he was gone. "What about the second line?" asked. "Holding but barely. We have lost 47 ships. They have lost only 12. 47 ships, more than half her fleet, in just 3 hours of fighting. At this rate, they would have nothing left by morning." "Your Majesty," another voice cut through the noise. It was Admiral, the commander of the royal flagship. Her face appeared on a holographic screen, smoke and fire behind her. "We cannot hold this position. The enemy is breaking through. I recommend immediate retreat to the inner planets." "If we retreat, they will follow," said. "If we stay, we die." His voice cracked. "Please, Your Majesty, give us permission to fall back. We can regroup, find allies, perhaps the Human Alliance." "The Human Alliance is too far away," interrupted. "Even if they agreed to help, their ships would take weeks to reach us. We will be dead long before then." Closed her eyes, she thought about her people, the billions of lives that depended on her decisions, the cities full of families, children, elders. What would happen to them if she surrendered? Slavery, death, a fate worse than defeat. But what would happen if she kept fighting? The same fate, just faster. "Fall back," she ordered. Her voice was heavy with grief. "All ships retreat to the inner defensive ring. Protect the home planet at all costs." The ships began to move. Slowly, painfully, they pulled away from the battle. They did not let them go easily. They chased the retreating fleet, firing constantly. More ships exploded. More lives ended. By the time the survivors reached the inner ring, only 31 ships remained. 31 ships against nearly 300 enemies. Sat down heavily in her chair. For a moment, she forgot she was a queen. She was just a woman, a tired, scared woman who was about to watch everything she loved be destroyed. Your Majesty stood before her. His old face was sad but determined. "There is one more option." "Tell me." "We surrender. We accept their terms. Many of our people will become slaves, yes, but some might survive, some might escape. It is better than total destruction." Looked at him. "You are asking me to give our people to monsters." "I am asking you to let some of them live." The room was silent again. Everyone watched. Everyone waited. Thought about, he was still in the garden, probably, still tending his flowers, unaware of how bad things had become. She had told him to stay safe. She had wanted to protect him. But now she realized there was no safe place left. If she surrendered, what would happen to him? They did not treat aliens kindly, and humans were considered weak by everyone in the galaxy. They would probably kill him or worse. But if she kept fighting, he would die anyway. They would all die. "Send a message to the commander," she said slowly. "Tell him I wish to negotiate." Nodded. There was no judgment in his eyes. He understood. Sometimes survival meant accepting defeat. The message was sent. Minutes passed. Then finally a response came. The holographic screen flickered to life, showing a face that made stomach turn. The commander was enormous even by standards. His skin was dark red like dried blood. His eyes were small and cruel. Sharp teeth filled his mouth. He wore armor covered in the symbols of his victories, dozens of conquered worlds. "Queen of," he said, his voice was deep and mocking. "I am Lord Commander of this fleet. I accept your request to negotiate, but I warn you there is nothing to negotiate. You will surrender or you will die. Those are your only options." Stood tall, even in defeat, she would maintain her dignity. "What guarantees can you offer for my people's safety?" Laughed, it was an ugly sound. "Guarantees? You are not in a position to ask for guarantees, little queen. You will give us everything we want. Your ships, your weapons, your technology, your strongest citizens will become workers in our mines. Your weakest will be disposed of. This is the fate of the conquered." "And if I refuse?" Leaned forward, his small eyes gleamed with pleasure. "Then I will bomb every city on your worlds. I will turn your beautiful planet into ash. I will make sure that nothing remains of except memories and regret. The choice is yours." Felt tears forming in her eyes. She blinked them away. She would not cry in front of this monster. "You have 1 hour to decide," said. "After that the bombing begins." The screen went dark. Stood alone in the center of the war room. Her officers watched her in silence. No one knew what to say. 1 hour. 1 hour to decide the fate of her entire civilization. She thought about her palace, her garden, her husband waiting there surrounded by flowers. She thought about the future that would never exist, the children she would never have, the peace she would never know. She thought about surrender, about slavery, about watching her people suffer for the rest of their lives. And then slowly, something changed inside her, a small spark of defiance, a stubborn refusal to give up without trying everything. "There must be something," she whispered. "There must be something we have not tried." But there was nothing. Her fleet was broken. Her allies were too far away. Her weapons were useless against such overwhelming force. Unless there was something she did not know about, something hidden, something unexpected. Thought about again, about the way he sometimes looked at the stars, about the scars she had seen on his back once when he did not know she was watching, about the way he always changed the subject when she asked about his life before they met. A strange thought entered her mind, a crazy thought. What if her husband was not what he seemed? She pushed the thought away. It was foolish, was a gardener, a gentle, kind, simple man who loved flowers and peace. But the thought would not leave her. What if? Ran through the palace halls. She did not care that her royal robe slowed her down. She did not care that servants stopped and stared as she passed. She needed to see. She needed to understand. The garden was exactly as she had left it, peaceful, beautiful, untouched by the chaos happening above. The twin suns were setting now, painting everything in shades of orange and purple. The singing flowers hummed their evening songs. And there was. He was sitting on the same bench in the same spot where she had left him hours ago, but something was different. His posture had changed. He was no longer relaxed and gentle. His back was straight. His shoulders were tense. He looked like a rope pulled too tight, ready to snap. He turned to look at her. His eyes were wrong. They were still brown, still familiar, but there was something cold in them now, something sharp, like a knife hidden under silk. "You should not be here," he said. His voice was calm, but it was not the warm calm she knew. It was the calm of deep water hiding dangerous things beneath. "The battle is lost," said. She walked toward him, her heart beating fast. "We have less than an hour before they begin destroying our cities. Thinks we should surrender." Nodded slowly. "And what do you think?" "I think," she stopped in front of him, "I think I do not know you at all." Silence, the flowers sang. The wind whispered, looked at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. "You know me," he said finally. "The man who loves you, the man who tends this garden, that is who I am." "Is it?" Reached out and touched his face. Her silver fingers traced the line of his jaw. Then why do I feel like I am looking at a stranger? Closed his eyes. When he opened them again, something had shifted. The mask was cracking. What do you want from me? The truth, her voice trembled. I am about to lose everything, my people, my world, my life. Before that happens, I want to know who I married. I want to know the real you. For a long time did not speak. He looked at the sky, where distant flashes of light marked the ongoing battle. He looked at the flowers around him, the roses he had planted with such care. He looked at his hands, still dirty from working in the soil. Then he stood up. Come with me, he said. He led her to a small building at the edge of the garden. It was his private workshop, where he stored his gardening tools and seeds. Had been inside once or twice, but she had never looked closely. It was just a shed full of dirt and plants. Or so she had thought. Walked to the back wall and pressed his hand against a hidden panel. The wall slid open, revealing a small room that had never seen before. Inside the room was a single metal chest, old and scratched and covered in marks that looked like symbols from Earth. What is that? Whispered. Knelt before the chest and placed his hand on the lock. It scanned his fingerprint, then clicked open. Inside, carefully arranged on dark cloth, were objects that made his breath catch in her throat. A uniform, black and made of some material she did not recognize. On the chest was a symbol, a bird with spread wings holding a sword in its talons. Medals, dozens of them, gold and silver and bronze, each one marked with tiny writing. And a photograph, old and faded. It showed a group of human soldiers standing in front of a burning building. They were smiling, but their eyes were empty, dead eyes, survivor eyes. In the center of the group was a young man. His face was harder, his body more muscular, but it was unmistakably. I was not always a gardener, said quietly. He picked up the uniform and held it in his hands. Before I came here, I was a soldier, one of Earth's best. Could not speak, she could only stare. The Human Alliance has a special unit, continued. We do not have a name, we do not exist in any official record. We are the ones they send when all other options have failed. The ones who do the jobs that no one else can do. He paused. They called me the Ghost of Titan. The Ghost of Titan, repeated. The name meant nothing to her, but the way said it made her shiver. Titan is a moon in Earth's solar system. 40 years ago, they invaded it. They killed 30,000 colonists in one night. Earth sent its fleet to fight back, but it was not enough. They were too strong. His jaw tightened. So they sent me. You alone. I was not alone at first. I had a team. 12 of the best soldiers humanity had ever trained. We landed on Titan in secret. Our mission was simple: destroy the command center and kill their leaders. His voice grew distant. The mission took 3 weeks. By the end, only I was left alive, but I completed the objective. I killed every commander on that moon. I destroyed their communications, their weapons, their ships. When our fleet arrived for the second attack, they were in chaos. We pushed them back. Felt dizzy. This could not be real. This had to be a dream. How many? She asked. How many did you kill? Was silent for a moment. Then, I stopped counting after 2,000. 2,000, one human. Against the most feared warriors in the galaxy. It was impossible. It was madness. And yet, looking at his eyes, she believed him. After Titan, they gave me more missions, said, and more and more. Every time I came back alive when I should have died. Every time I killed enemies that could not be killed. He put the uniform down and looked at. I became a weapon, a tool, something less than human. And one day I realized that if I did not stop, there would be nothing left of me. So you ran away. I ran away, he agreed. I changed my name. I hid my records. I traveled to the far edge of the galaxy, to a place where no one had ever heard of the Ghost of Titan. I wanted to forget. I wanted to be someone else, someone who created life instead of taking it. He reached out and took her hand. His fingers were rough from gardening but gentle. Then I met you, he said, And for the first time in my life I was happy, truly happy. I thought the war was behind me. I thought I could finally have peace. Felt tears running down her face. She did not wipe them away. But war follows me, whispered. It always has. No matter how far I run, no matter how hard I try to hide, it finds me. And now it has found you. He stood up and walked to the wall, where a black case hung on a hook. He opened it and pulled out something that made step back in fear. It was a weapon, a rifle, but unlike anything she had seen before. Sleek and deadly, covered in symbols that glowed faintly blue, it looked like something from a nightmare. "This is my rifle," said. "Her name is. She has been with me through every battle, every war, every mission. I thought I would never hold her again." He checked the weapon with practiced hands. Every movement was fast and precise. The gentle botanist was gone. In his place stood something else, something ancient and terrible and utterly focused. "They have 300 ships," said weakly. "What can one man do against that?" Smiled. It was not a warm smile. It was the smile of a wolf looking at sheep. "They think they understand war," he said. "They think they are the best warriors in the galaxy, but they have never fought a human who has nothing left to lose." He turned to face her. "They have never fought me." Wanted to stop him. She wanted to tell him it was suicide. She wanted to beg him to stay, to hide, to let the war happen without him. But she saw the look in his eyes. He was not doing this for glory. He was not doing this for victory. He was doing this for her. "I love you," she said. The words came out broken and desperate. "I do not want to lose you." Walked to her. He cupped her face in his hands just as he had done 1,000 times before, but now his touch felt different, heavier, like a goodbye. "You never had all of me," he said softly. "There was always a part that I kept hidden, the dark part, the violent part, the part that knows how to kill." He kissed her forehead. "But the part that loves you, that part is real, that part is true, and that part will fight to protect you, even if it means becoming the monster I swore I would never be again." He pulled away. He put the rifle over his shoulder. He walked toward the door. Her voice stopped him. "What happens if you fail?" He did not turn around. "Then you remember me as I was," he said. "The quiet gardener who loved flowers and loved his wife. That is the man I want you to remember." And then he was gone. Stood alone in the hidden room, surrounded by medals and memories and the ghosts of a past she had never known. She looked at the photograph of young soldiers smiling in front of fire. She looked at her husband's empty eyes in that picture. And she understood, finally, what it meant to love a human. They were not weak at all. They were simply sleeping, waiting, holding back the violence that lived inside them until the moment when it was needed. And now, one of them was about to wake up. The military base was in chaos when arrived. Wounded soldiers lay on stretchers, moaning in pain. Officers shouted at each other, arguing about evacuation plans. No one was thinking about victory anymore. Everyone was thinking about survival. No one noticed the human gardener walking through the halls. Moved like a shadow. His footsteps made no sound. His body slipped between crowds without touching anyone. It was an old skill, one he had learned long ago, how to be invisible, how to be nothing until the moment he needed to be everything. He reached the hangar bay. It was half empty. Most of the fighters had already launched and been destroyed, but a few remained, sitting in rows like sleeping birds. Walked past them until he found what he was looking for. It was a small ship, a scout fighter built for speed rather than combat, nothing special to look at, but knew this ship. He had studied every vessel in the fleet during his 3 years on the planet. This one was fast. It could turn quickly. It could fit into spaces where larger ships could not go. It was perfect. "You there, stop." Turned. A young officer was walking toward him, her face angry and confused. She was probably wondering why a civilian was in the middle of a military base during a war. "This area is restricted," she said. Who are you? How did you get in here? Smiled. It was his gentle smile, the one he used in the garden. I am the Queen's husband. The officer blinked. Recognition flashed in her eyes, followed quickly by something else. Pity, perhaps, or contempt. She clearly thought he was a fool who had wandered into the wrong place. Sir, with respect, you need to leave. This is a war zone. It is not safe for someone like you. Someone like me. Smile did not change, but something in his eyes did. You mean a human? I mean a civilian. The officer tried to be polite, but her patience was running out. Please, sir, return to the palace. Let us handle the fighting. The fighting is not going well, is it? The officer looked away. Her silence was answer enough. We have lost most of our ships, continued. In less than an hour they will begin bombing our cities. Millions will die. Your people will become slaves. Everything you have ever loved will be destroyed. He paused. Unless something changes. Nothing can change. The officer's voice cracked. They are too strong. We cannot win. You cannot win, agreed, but I can. Before the officer could respond, moved. His hand shot out and pressed against a nerve cluster in her neck. She collapsed instantly, unconscious but unharmed, caught her and lowered her gently to the ground. Sleep well, he whispered. When you wake up, things will be different. He climbed into the scout fighter. The controls were unfamiliar but not complicated. Technology was advanced, but the basic principles were the same as human ships. Thrust, navigation, weapons, shields, everything a warrior needed. The engine hummed to life, strapped himself in and took a deep breath. He had not flown a combat mission in 15 years. He had promised himself he never would again. He had buried the ghost of Titan so deep that sometimes he forgot that name had ever belonged to him. But some things you never forget. The fighter launched from the hangar bay and shot upward into the sky. Within seconds was past the clouds. Within minutes he was in space. And there ahead of him was the enemy. The fleet was massive. Hundreds of ships spread across the darkness like a swarm of angry insects. The largest ones were the command ships, massive vessels bristling with weapons, each one capable of destroying a city with a single blast. Around them flew thousands of smaller fighters, buzzing and circling, ready to attack. Against all of this had one small scout ship and a rifle. "Hello," he said to the weapon beside him. "I hope you remember how we used to dance." He pushed the throttle forward. The ship accelerated, shooting toward the enemy fleet at impossible speed. The first fighter saw him 3 seconds later. It turned to intercept, its weapons powering up. Did not give it time to fire. His ship twisted sideways, slipping through the enemy's targeting system like water through fingers. He passed so close to the fighter that he could see the pilot's face through the window, a warrior, huge and confident, probably expecting an easy kill. The last thing that warrior saw was ship spinning around in a move that should have been impossible. The last thing he heard was the sound of weapons fire. Then his ship exploded. One counted. He did not slow down. He dove into the middle of the enemy formation, his ship dancing between laser blasts and missiles. They could not track him. Every time they thought they had him locked, he was somewhere else. He was not flying like a pilot. He was not flying like anyone they had ever seen. He was flying like a human. 2, 3, 4, 5. Ships exploded around him. The commanders shouted orders, trying to coordinate their forces. But coordination meant nothing against a target that would not stay still, moved through their fleet like a ghost, appearing and disappearing, striking and retreating. He found patterns in their formation, weaknesses, gaps. He saw the way their fighters flew in predictable lines. He noticed the blind spots in their scanning systems. He calculated the exact moments when their shields would flicker during weapons. And he exploited every single one. 23, 24, 25. The flagship, the largest ship in the fleet, began turning its main weapon toward him. It was a planet killer, a massive cannon capable of destroying entire worlds. If it hit him, there would be nothing left. Smiled. He aimed his ship directly at the flagship and accelerated. Every alarm in his cockpit screamed warnings. Every logical part of his brain told him to turn away. He did not turn. At the last possible second, he pulled up hard. His ship scraped along the surface of the flagship, so close that sparks flew from the hull. The planet killer fired, missing him by centimeters and hitting 3 fighters that were trying to chase him. 31. Inside the flagship, Lord was screaming. His red face had turned purple with rage. What is happening? How can one ship do this? Kill him now. But was already gone. He had found an access point on the flagship's hull, a maintenance hatch, poorly guarded. His ship was too big to fit, but he did not need the ship anymore. He landed on the flagship's surface, magnetic boots locking to the metal. He grabbed and moved toward the hatch. Around him, space burned with fire and destruction. They were watching, confused and amazed. Their remaining ship stopped retreating. They began to hope. Opened the hatch and climbed inside. The inside of the flagship was dark and hot. It smelled like blood and metal. Emergency lights flashed red. Alarms howled. Soldiers ran through the corridors trying to figure out what was happening. They did not expect the human. The first squad of warriors found in Corridor 7. There were 12 of them, all armed with heavy weapons, all trained killers. They lasted 9 seconds. Moved through them like a storm. His rifle sang. His body twisted and turned, avoiding attacks that should have hit him, striking back with perfect precision. He did not waste a single shot. He did not hesitate for a single moment. When it was over, 12 warriors lay dead and walked on without looking back. Bridge is 3 levels up, he said to himself. Maximum resistance expected. Estimated time 4 minutes. He climbed, he fought, he killed. More soldiers came, then more. Then elite guards, bigger and stronger than the regular troops. They threw everything they had at him. It was not enough. Reached the bridge in 3 minutes and 47 seconds. He was breathing hard now. His body hurt in a dozen places. Blood dripped from a cut above his eye, not his blood. The bridge doors were locked with the strongest security system they had. Pulled a small device from his belt. It was human technology, old but effective. He placed it against the lock and pressed a button. The doors exploded inward. Lord stood in the center of the bridge, surrounded by his personal guards. His cruel eyes widened with shock as he saw the human standing in the doorway. "Impossible," he whispered. One human." Raised and pointed her its head. "You attacked my wife's planet," he said. His voice was calm, quiet, terrifying. "You threatened her people. You thought you could destroy everything she loves." He stepped forward. The guards tried to move but was faster. 3 shots. 3 bodies falling. Before anyone could react, he was standing directly in front of. "You made a mistake," said. "The worst mistake of your life." His hand moved toward a hidden weapon. His hand moved faster. The Lord Commander of the invasion fleet died, with a look of complete shock on his face. Walked to the communication console. He activated a fleet-wide broadcast. Every ship in the fleet would hear this message. Every soldier, every officer. "This is," he said. "Some of you know me as the Ghost of Titan. Your commander is dead. Your flagship is mine. You have one choice. Leave this system now or join him." He paused. "You have 30 seconds to decide." The response came in 22 seconds. All across the battlefield, ships began to turn. Their engines powered up. Their weapons went silent. They ran. 300 ships, the mightiest fleet in the Empire, fled from one human standing on a stolen bridge. Watched them go. Then he sat down in the commander's chair and closed his eyes. The battle was over. He had one. And somewhere deep inside him, the monster that had woken up began, slowly, to go back to sleep. The war room was silent. Every officer, every soldier, every servant stood frozen, staring at the holographic screens. They had watched the entire battle. They had seen the impossible happen. Queen stood at the center of it all, her hands pressed against her mouth, her purple eyes wide with shock. She could not speak. She could not move. She could only watch as the fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, running from a single human in a stolen ship. "Your Majesty," General's voice was rough. He looked like a man who had just witnessed a miracle. Did that really happen?" Did not answer. She was still staring at the screen where his face had appeared during the broadcast. She had seen him speak those words. "This is, some of you know me as the Ghost of Titan." The Ghost of Titan. Her husband. Her gentle, quiet husband who loved flowers and hated conflict. Her husband who smiled at butterflies and talked to plants like they were old friends. Her husband who had never, in 3 years of marriage, raised his voice in anger. That man had just destroyed an entire invasion fleet by himself. "Contact the flagship," said. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears. "Contact, I need to speak to him." It took several minutes to establish a connection. When his face appeared on the screen, felt her heart break and rebuild itself in the same moment. He looked exhausted. His face was covered in dirt and blood. His eyes were red from lack of sleep. But when he saw her, his expression softened. The hardness melted away. The soldier disappeared. And there, looking back at her, was her husband. "Hello, my love," he said softly. "You," could not finish the sentence. Tears were running down her silver cheeks. "You." "I know," his voice was gentle, sad. "I know I have much to explain. I know you have many questions, but right now I just want to come home. Can I come home?" Nodded. She did not trust herself to speak. "I will be there soon," said. "Wait for me in the garden." The screen went dark. Stood alone in the war room. Around her, the officers were beginning to celebrate. Someone was laughing. Someone else was crying with relief. The planet was saved. The people would live. It was a time for joy. But felt only confusion. She walked through the palace halls in a daze. Her advisors tried to speak to her. Her guards tried to protect her. She ignored them all. She moved like a woman in a dream, putting one foot in front of the other until she reached the royal garden. The flowers were still singing. The twin suns were rising again, marking the beginning of a new day. Everything looked the same as it had before the war, peaceful, beautiful, safe. Sat on the bench and waited. An hour passed. Then 2 officers came to report that the captured flagship was being secured. Scientists came to ask about salvaging enemy technology, came to request permission to send rescue ships to help survivors. Dealt with each matter quickly and sent them away. Then she returned to waiting. Finally, in the early afternoon, she heard footsteps. Walked into the garden. He had cleaned himself up a little, but he still looked tired. His gardening clothes were gone, replaced by a simple black shirt and pants. His rifle was not with him. He stopped a few feet away from the bench and looked at. Neither of them spoke. The silence stretched on, the flowers sang, the wind blew, the suns moved slowly across the sky. "I am sorry," said finally. "I should have told you the truth." Looked at him. She studied his face, searching for the soldier she had seen on the screens. She could not find him. All she saw was her. "Why did you hide it?" she asked. "Because I was afraid." Sat down beside her. His hands rested in his lap, still and quiet. "I was afraid that if you knew what I had done, what I was capable of, you would look at me differently. You would see a monster instead of a man. You killed thousands of people." "Yes." "You destroyed entire armies." "Yes." "You could have killed me at any moment during our marriage. You could have killed everyone in this palace without breaking a sweat." Was silent for a moment. Then, "Yes, I could have." But you did not. No, he turned to look at her. His eyes were clear and honest. Because killing is not what I want. It is not who I choose to be. I was made into a weapon. The military took a young man who just wanted to protect his family and they turned him into something terrible. For years, I did what they asked. I killed their enemies. I won their wars. And every time I pulled the trigger, I felt another piece of myself disappear. He reached down and picked up a small flower that had fallen on the ground. He held it carefully in his palm. When I finally escaped, I was empty inside. I had nothing left. No friends, no family, no purpose. I wandered the galaxy for years looking for something to fill the hole in my soul. He smiled faintly. And then I found gardens. I found plants. I found the simple joy of helping things grow instead of watching them die. Listened, she did not interrupt. Gardening saved me, continued. It taught me patience. It taught me hope. It taught me that life can be beautiful, even after terrible things have happened. Every flower I planted was a promise to myself, a promise that I would never go back to being the ghost of Titan. But you did go back. His voice was quiet. Today you became him again. Yes, closed his eyes, because there are some things worth breaking promises for, some things worth becoming a monster to protect. He opened his eyes and looked at her. You are one of those things, you and your people, your world, your garden, everything you have built. I could not let them take it away, not without trying to stop them. Felt something shifting inside her. The shock was fading, the confusion was clearing, and in their place something new was growing. Understanding. You were never weak, she said slowly. All this time when the court mocked you, when the generals dismissed you, when everyone called you a pathetic pet, you were never weak. No. You were holding back, controlling yourself, choosing to be gentle when you could have been violent. Yes. Reached out and took his hand. His fingers closed around hers automatically, like they had done 1,000 times before. That is not weakness, she said. That is strength, the greatest strength I have ever seen. Looked at her. His eyes were wet with tears he was too proud to let fall. You do not hate me, he asked. His voice was small, almost childlike. You do not fear me. Thought about the question. She thought about everything she had learned in the past day. The violence her husband was capable of, the blood on his hands, the ghosts that must haunt his dreams. And she thought about the man who had held her through nightmares, the man who had made her laugh when she was sad, the man who had spent 3 years building a garden just because he knew it would make her happy. I do not hate you, she said. I do not fear you, she squeezed his hand. I love you, all of you, the gardener and the soldier, the gentle man and the ghost. I love every part of you, even the parts you tried to hide. For a moment did not move, then something in him broke. The tension he had been carrying for 15 years, longer perhaps, finally released. His shoulders dropped, his jaw unclenched. A single tear rolled down his cheek. Thank you, he whispered, thank you. They sat together on the bench as the suns moved across the sky. They did not talk about the war anymore. They did not talk about the future or the past. They just sat, holding hands, listening to the flowers sing. Eventually stood up. He walked to his rose bushes and knelt down in the dirt. His hands began to work automatically, pulling weeds and checking soil. Watched him, she smiled. What are you doing? She asked. The roses need attention, said. I neglected them today. They will be upset with me. You just won a war. And now the war is over. He looked up at her and she saw the gentle gardener in his eyes again. Life goes on. That is what I learned during my years of fighting. No matter how terrible things become, life goes on. The flowers still bloom, the suns still rise, and the people we love still need us. He held out his hand. Dirt was caked under his fingernails. Come, he said, help me with the roses. I will teach you how to prune them properly. Looked at his hand. She thought about her royal robes, her important meetings, her duties as a queen. Then she took off her crown and set it aside. She knelt in the dirt beside her husband. She let him show her how to hold the pruning shears. And together, the Queen of and the Ghost of Titan spent the rest of the afternoon caring for flowers. In the war room, the officers were still celebrating. In the streets, the people were cheering. In space, the wreckage of enemy ships drifted silently. But in the garden, there was only peace. Peace and the sound of flowers singing. And a human and an alien kneeling in the dirt, remembering together what it meant to be alive. The story would spread, of course. The tale of the human gardener who saved an empire would be told for generations. The name Ghost of Titan would become a legend. Children would dream of growing up to be like him. But did not care about legends. He cared about the rose in front of him. He cared about the woman beside him. He cared about the simple, beautiful fact that he was alive and free and home. And for the first time in his long and violent life, that was enough. It was more than enough. It was everything.